Hey my little peacheroonies, and welcome back to another episode of my Story Sims series. This one I feel less like I know the end result as I do my other Sim stories. If you haven't checked out my other Sim stories, please go ahead and check out ᚋᚔᚄᚅᚓᚐᚉᚆ. He's episode 1. Kai is episode 2, and then today's episode is going to focus on Alonso here. You guys saw from the intro that Alonso, he had a pretty tough time in school. He's not a teenager anymore, he is a young adult now. That was kind of a flashback to his past, but he definitely struggled in school. He's a much more kind of slimline build than his peers were in school, and he also got bullied for being quite feminine looking, or just kind of, I don't know, I feel like in school if you don't fit in with everybody else, you're kind of, people can be cruel. I know this because I've been there, as I've talked to you guys about in the past, so it's kind of a personal story to me in that respect as well. I wanted to come into this all super serious as well, and then Ali and I went for a dog walk, and I fell in a pile of liquid manure. Go and check out my Twitter if you haven't already. So even though I've washed my hands like 1,000 times and I've got like loads of hand cream on, I can still smell it. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that smell. I think it's on my soul now. I think my soul is manure. So yeah, as I was saying, I don't feel quite as confident in Alonso's story as I do the others. That's because the story I honestly want to tell with him, I cannot tell him what is basically a 3-day or whatever, it's kind of like period of time. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell the story the way that I want to tell it, and you guys will see it as it envelops. What I also want to do is kind of show that you can't necessarily solve all of life problems in just a few days like we could do with ᚋᚔᚄᚅᚓᚐᚉᚆ and Kai. Some problems are a little bit greater, they run a little bit deeper, and the time period takes a little bit more time, and that is kind of how I feel about Alonso. So Alonso lives in an apartment here with his dad, who's older, definitely older, a little bit more like I don't know, I feel like he struggles to connect with his dad because his dad is older, and you know, just a bit more like watching TV, reading a newspaper kind of vibes. This was his mom. His mom was, of course, Violet from my In the City series. She unfortunately went ahead and died a while ago, but obviously they still love her and miss her a great deal. They've got a portrait in the apartment, and they downsized to quite a small apartment after it's not actually a small apartment. I think it's a really nice cozy apartment. It was actually originally designed by ᚋᚔᚄᚅᚓᚐᚉᚆ, who is another YouTuber, so I got it from the gallery of her creation, and then I've just tweaked it to match like my story a little bit more. So I've changed some of the rooms, I've changed some of the vibe. It's basically meant to show that this outside of the apartment is kind of like very masculine vibes, I would say. Not toxic masculine, that's not what I'm getting at. It's just more like, it looks like a bachelor pad because there's 2 guys living here. But Alonso kind of, as you saw in the intro, he's kind of very uncomfortable in his body. In Kai's story, when he was in Solani, he felt so uncomfortable with his body that he wouldn't go in the sea, he wouldn't take his top off when they were on the beach. He was glad that ᚋᚔᚄᚅᚓᚐᚉᚆ wasn't there, because I guess ᚋᚔᚄᚅᚓᚐᚉᚆ being like quite a big, strong looking dude from working on the farm, probably reminding Alonso quite a lot of the guys in school who were also kind of like big, stronger guys. And of course we saw in the intro that Alonso has tried like going to the gym, making himself like try and be bigger and stronger to try and feel a little bit more comfortable in his skin, but it just didn't really work out for him. You can't just click your fingers, go to the gym, and life is suddenly better again, as much as YouTube transformation videos and kind of, I don't know, regular media likes to tell you you can do. Although it can definitely help boost your mood and boost your mindset, I will say that. A little bit like Kai, I guess, he is trying to like sort of find his place in the world as well. Doesn't really know what he wants to do in life. I changed some of his traits around, so he currently has a naturally thin trait, which is why I undressed him for that intro pic, the little intro shot, but obviously I don't feel like he would be comfortable enough walking around the house like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and put his pajamas back on. But he's got the naturally thin trait, which is why he's such like a slight build. He aged up naturally with the heavy drinker trait, so I just kind of gave him that. His personality trait is actually the provider. So he's a very caring and like naturally social person. He really wants to try and help. But obviously the stuff he went through at school has given that such a knock, so he's not able to be the person he wants to be. And then the other thing I've gone ahead and given him is the gender dysphoria trait. Now, this is the story I really, really wanted to do with Alonzo. I wanted to show a sim because I've done this in the past, but I haven't really gone into the psychological impact of this very much. But I have done a female to male transgender story before. This one is something that I knew I wouldn't be able to do in a short space of time. So I'm gonna just we'll kind of see where it goes as we play for little Alonzo here. But also I wanted to go ahead and get a specific trait for this. You can Google Sims 4 gender dysphoria trait and it will come up with it. Mainly because I cannot relate to him in this way and know what he's going through. But I thought somebody that had made a trait specific for this probably understood it a little bit better than I could. And we could kind of explore this mod together as we sort of explore Alonzo and a little bit more about what is going on in his head. So Sims with gender dysphoria feel emotional and psychological gender identity to be the opposite of their biological sex. A Sim with gender dysphoria will often experience discomfort or distress because there's a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity. I've given this to Alonzo currently. I wouldn't say that 100% this is what he's going through. He feels a real mismatch in his body. When he looks in the mirror, he finds it hard to look at himself. Something isn't right. Something is making him really unhappy. But as of yet, like he's starting to feel these feelings. We're kind of like trying to work through his emotions. Is he actually feeling kind of a mismatch between his biological sex and his actual gender identity? Or is it just kind of more he isn't comfortable in his skin and maybe there's another route for him? We're kind of gonna explore that together. But as you guys saw in ᚋᚔᚅᚓᚉᚆ, while he was being super uncomfortable with his body, he had a little bit of a heart-to-heart with Alice. I think Alice is aware that something's not right with the little Alonzo. Something is definitely mismatched and he's unhappy. These three, Zoe, Alice, and Alonso, actually pretty close. Like spent a lot of teen time together, even though these guys did not go to the same school as him. I feel like he went to an all-boys school. But Zoe is a pretty busy sim. You'll find out a little bit more about that when we get into her story, which is why Alice was the one who was able to kind of notice stuff going on with him. Also probably reflecting stuff going on in her life, kind of stuff not going right for her. She can notice when it's not going right on other people as well. So she is like invited him to come over and hang out with him at, she does a lot of work in like a garage, like a mechanic's garage. She does a lot of mechanic work. So she's like, come over to the garage, come hang out and just talk to me, like tell me what's going on. I think honestly, she probably had to drag him here, but we've got him to come over anyway. So this is the garage that Alice works at. I got it from the gallery. It did a little bit of tweaking today, but I think it looks pretty cool. It has that like abandoned kind of like a mechanic-y, but also we sell stuff kind of vibe to it. We've got a few guys here ready to meet who are Alice's kind of friends and co-workers. So let us head inside. Okay, so here are our little gang along. We got Alice, who obviously works in the mechanic here. We've got one of her co-workers, Steven. We got the owner of the shop as well, Joe. And then we've also got Diego here, who works with these guys at the mechanic shop as well. Probably not the people that Alonso would usually hang out with, but I don't know. We're trying to get him out of his shell. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to these guys. And they've come outside to do a little bit of work on these scrap cars we've got, but Alonso is feeling depressed. He's feeling mysteriously sad. There's an overwhelming desire to cry. Why the sudden rush of sadness? I think, bless him, he's still feeling just a little bit lost and maybe a little bit left out. Like I said, they wouldn't be like his usual people to hang out with. I'm gonna get like just him and Alice to go aside just for one moment so she can have a little chit chat with him. Oh, look at his little sad walk. Oh, I just want to like look after Alonso. There's just something like, he's just like a little gentle soul and he's been through a lot of stuff and I don't know, I just want to care for him. But she's like, tell me what's going on. You seemed really, really uncomfortable. Oh, bless. You seemed really uncomfortable in ᚋᚔᚅᚓᚉᚆ. Like, is there anything you want to tell me? Is there anything you want to get off your mind? And I feel like these kind of things are kind of like, they must be really hard to talk about, especially if you've never spoken about them with anybody before. Oh my gosh. Although, I say that, Alice has just learned about Alonzo's trait, gender dysphoria. Okay, so clearly he's spoken to her about it, which is actually amazing because I think Alice had a little bit of a sneaking suspicion, which is why she invited him around today. Because she says, look, I have a friend here. You've already met him. It's Diego. I feel like you and Diego should just have a little chat. Just like have a little chit chat with him. I feel like he could definitely like help you with some of the stuff that you're going through right now. And in fact, I'm gonna get her to go over and speak to him real quickly beforehand, because Diego is actually one of your Sims from the gallery. You uploaded Diego as a biological male, but I've done a few quick little tweaks so that he is still male. He is 100% still male, but biologically his original form was female. So Alice isn't about to go over and be like, oh, by the way, guess what Alonso just told me? That is not how you handle this. It's more her being like, oh, my friend Alonso has some stuff going on. I feel like it'd be helpful if you talked about him. You know the stuff that we talked about like a couple of years ago when I first started working here? He would benefit from you speaking to him one-on-one. And so since Diego's such a nice chill dude, that is exactly what he's gonna go and do. Oh, look at this. Got a nice text from Zoe. Saw something today that reminded me of you. That's so sweet. So the two of them having a little bit of a chat. I don't feel like Alonso would ever just come out with this, but I do feel like Diego's a sim who's very comfortable with his appearance. He's comfortable with, I don't know why he's a little bit of his chest here keeps showing, but it does in that top quite hilariously. But he's comfortable in his appearance. He's comfortable with his identity. He's comfortable with how he chooses to present himself, which is a lot more than can be said for a lot of people, unfortunately. And I think, oh, look at his little sweet, like, understanding face, especially for Alonso. And I think he'd probably be able to talk to him in a way that wasn't like, oh, I feel like you're going through this. Here is everything that I feel like I need to load on you. It's more, oh, I just wanted to talk to you about some stuff that I went through like a couple of years back. It's a pretty long journey. I think you'd find it interesting. Kind of talk to him a little bit about it, but also it's like, look, if you are interested in the stuff that I'm asking about, here's my number. Feel free to ask me about this stuff at any time. Like, any friend of Alice's is a friend of mine. But also, you should definitely head to this YouTube channel. There is a YouTuber called Mira Campbell. She talks a load about this kind of stuff. I think you'd really find her channel beneficial. Look how much happier he looks. Also, look. I get this option. Try to explain. Like, this is from the trait. I love it when traits add like new interactions like this, so he can try and explain what he's personally feeling. Obviously, if anyone's gonna know, it's Diego, because he's gone through the whole thing. But I still think it's pretty cool that you get the option to talk about it, and the fact that I feel like it came up on one of his first options when I try and discuss dysphoria issues. Oh my gosh, this is such a good mod. But I feel like since that came up on his wheel like almost straight away, that is like a really good sign that he must feel comfortable enough in this person to talk to him about it. Look, you can explain preferred pronouns, but I definitely feel like getting out of the house and stop being inside his head has been super beneficial to him. I know this is somebody that when you go through like issues at school, sometimes even as an adult, it's hard to get yourself out of the same negative headspace you were in while you were younger. So I feel like that has been very beneficial for my boy. But it's getting a little bit later now. I'm gonna send him home. I also feel like armed with this knowledge of this like YouTuber, he's like really excited to be like, okay, I want to go and learn more about this stuff. I'm only like, I don't think he fully understands like the way he feels right now. So getting as much knowledge as you can is really important. And it's also, from my point of view, a little bit of a shout out to the amazing resources that are online for this kind of thing, and the amazing people that are doing everything that they can to try and educate people and also help those that are kind of struggling with this kind of stuff too. Okay, so while Alonso is going ahead, checking out everything that Diego has recommended he go and look at, educating himself massively, opening himself to a whole new world of gender expression, of binary and non-binary, and just all this stuff that he didn't really understand very deeply before. I came home and like poor little Joseph was just like all sad on the sofa by himself because he feels like he's not moving fast enough. My body isn't the same as it used to be, but just kind of feeling like oh, things aren't the same as I used to be. Probably feeling a little bit lonely without Violet, but also the fact that like, did you see them at the beginning of the intro, sat on the sofa trying to watch football together, and like Alonso clearly not being into what is like more classically seen as like male interests, which his dad is. And there's this kind of like disconnect between the two of them because like he can't figure out how to engage his son with his interests, and he doesn't understand what his son's interests are either. Alonso is happy because he's made a new friend. However, he's also got this self-consciousness. This is from his gender dysphoria trait. So he's feeling a wave of anxiety coming on, like looking through this stuff, although it's probably like very eye-opening. There's also probably this fear in him that is like, I don't know, when you're so used to fitting a certain mold, but knowing it's not the right one for you, just because you get shown all these other ones doesn't mean suddenly you're like, oh, this is great. I know what I am. I'm just gonna pick this look off the shelf, and that's great. That works for me. I think right now he's probably kind of feeling almost like a little bit exposed and a little bit stressed about the whole situation. So although it's Saturday night, he's sat on his PC learning and researching. I don't think he really feels comfortable enough to try anything new just yet. Although I am gonna get him, because he's online, to chat a little bit more with Diego, maybe hopefully help reduced his anxiety a little bit, because also I don't want him to feel super shoehorned into this. Oh, what I'm feeling must be this, it must be gender dysphoria, that's the only option for me. I want him to kind of like know that there's other options and he can experiment, and I think talking to somebody can definitely help with that. So he's actually like in a super good happy mood. Poor Joseph, less so. Oh my gosh, he can cry out. Poor baby. I'm gonna go ahead and send him to bed. He wants to complain about his problems. You know what, actually, before you hit the deck, stop where you're going. Since you want to complain about your problems, why don't you come in here and just kind of briefly, oh look, they connect bathroom. Briefly have a chit chat to Alonzo, who I feel like is instantly just gonna like slam his laptop down, be like, oh, hey, hi dad, what are you in here for? What's going on? So I'm gonna get the two of them just to chat it out. Joseph being like, oh, I feel like we never hung out, like we don't do anything. Like, if I get tickets to a game, do you want to come? Alonzo being like, oh, you know what? I think I ate something funny today. Like, just don't really know if I want to go see a football match. But the two of them still at least having a little bit of a chit chat. Ooh, although look at this. Look, no, now feeling super uncomfortable. I think it's the hunger as well, but his dad talking to him about football kicked him out of the happy mood and kicked him into full-on uncomfortable anxiousness mood. Joseph has learned about his Alonso's gender dysphoria trait. Okay, so whatever they've talked about there has, although he's happy that he's spoken, he's on now an inkling. He's kind of like thinking, he's at least aware that something might be, you know, kind of going on in Alonso's head there. It's so funny. My Sims usually takes them so long to like learn each other's traits. I have Sims that are married and don't know all three traits of each other. But yeah, whatever Alonso's feeling is starting to become apparent to the people around him, because Diego notes straight away, Alice notes straight away, and also now his dad knows that something's going on as well. Again, I don't feel like he will have outright told him. More something he said has just set him off. Although I kind of also feel like Joseph's kind of happy that he's opened up to him, even if he doesn't fully understand what he's just been told. Also, no one. My random townies. This is how they come out. Okay, so Sunday. Joseph's having himself a happy little bath. Alonso kind of likes a little bit of a sleep in. I mean, it's only 7:30. I sleep in much later than that. But also, he's had a night to kind of think over stuff. He no longer has that anxious kind of trait. I'm gonna get him to get a shower as well, and then have a go at some of the stuff he's seen online. Just, I don't know, he probably would still have some of Violet's old clothes and stuff. Just being like, okay, let me just experiment with some stuff. Let me see what feels comfortable for me. He's woken up in a good mood as well. Cute. Because his usual look is hide as much of my body as I physically can, because he's just so uncomfortable with how he looks. But unfortunately, this isn't really making Alonso feel any better as well. Like, let's face it, as a guy who's probably not like really focused much on women's fashion before, you probably don't really know what is gonna like make you feel good and look good. And these are just clothes that obviously from Violet, just kind of still hanging around. Not stuff that he's like specifically picked out for himself, or stuff that would catch his eye based on his own interests. We've all been there. When you're putting makeup on for the first time, it's hard to get things right. I think it's great that he's tried and he's experimented, but it's not making him feel better, because he still literally won't look in the mirror. The mirror's right in front of him and he's not looking at it. He still does not feel good about the way he looks. I think rather than, you know, just allowing himself to feel sad and just kind of like feeling down about things all day, I've got him to go ahead and speak to Alice, who knows about what he's going through, knows about stuff, and has given him good advice so far. Just kind of talk to her and be like, look, can you help me? He's like, I'm not the most feminine girl. I'm not super into makeup and clothes and hair, but I know someone that has a much better idea than me, and who also has their entire dad's modeling wardrobe full of amazing outfits and amazing makeup and wigs and everything. So why don't we go hit up Zoe? So I think knowing that he's got like another option, he's got some friends that are gonna help him out, has definitely put a smile on his face. However, Joseph's kind of come into his room, been like, oh, breakfast is ready, but also kind of shocked him. And I can imagine that for Alonso, who is already super conscious about the way he looks, this must be his worst nightmare. So he's yelled at Joseph to get out of his room. Joseph kind of feeling probably quite confused by what he's seen. He had had an inkling something was going on, but I guess this kind of confirms it for him. And Alonso getting out the apartment as fast as he possibly can to try and get some help with his girlfriends. So if you've been on this channel a while, you are probably gonna recognize this pretty amazing build and the fact that it also has a studio. And also, thankfully for little Alonso here, he is very lucky to have people around him that definitely understand him and are willing to help, which is of course Zoe and Alice here. I actually noticed as he got here, yeah, he's sad now from feeling trapped from his gender dysphoria trait, and he's also feeling super self-conscious. I think like the fact that he tried to make these changes that he thought were gonna make him feel better, but instead they actually just ended up making him feel worse because he doesn't look the way he expected to be. And I think maybe he thought there'd be this light bulb moment when suddenly he's like, oh, this is how I'm meant to look. He hasn't felt like that. But hey, we've got an entire fashion photography studio. We've got hair, we've got makeup, we've got outfits, we've even got a changing room. We have a butt ton of memories as well. So I say we make the most of it for our little Alonso here right now. Okay, so we've got the makeup bit out of the way. Probably, I would say that Alice is like, Zoe, please save some talent for the rest of us. It's not fair you've been able to do all this, but Zoe's kind of like, you don't grow up in this house without learning a few tricks of the trade. Now it's time to see which of these little outfits we have here can work. Ooh, he's also lost the sad trait, which is amazing. These guys are gonna head over here. We'll try some outfits on for him. Okay, so we've got option number 1. There's nothing really wrong with it. I think he looks cute. However, I just don't think, oh, he's doing the little 2 fingers together emoji kind of thing. I just don't really feel like it's the right thing for him. Head back in. Let's try something else with you, okay? Okay, we got option number 2. He's like, Zoe, I get this. It's designer. It's really cool, but like, I just don't think, it's a bit much. I get too paranoid that people will be staring at me if I was walking around wearing Gucci all the time. And I already get paranoid enough about people staring at me as it is. So something like this, but less designery. Look at the little wholesome cute smile on his face though. He came over here so sad as well. Okay, then we've got the final outfit, which I feel like is just right. It's got the same shape as the other one, but definitely something that he's not gonna feel as self-conscious. He actually looks so confident in it, which I absolutely love. Okay, now I actually think with his hair, I don't necessarily have to change it. I don't think it's a necessity for this. However, I just kind of want him to experience like a full look change. So he's showing some pictures of like what kind of thing he'd actually like to try. And let's see what Zoe can come up with. But she's been pretty impressive so far. Looking good. Zoe's like, okay, we're gonna grab some pictures of you. Let's do it this way. Oh, I actually genuinely think that short hair definitely suits Alonso more. However, there's something super cute. I did this with Ruben as well, didn't I? Take pictures. There's something super adorable. Like, he just looks so much more carefree right now. Zoe's like, wait a minute, something is missing here. Give me 1 sec. Okay, much better. Look how relaxed and happy you look right now. I am gonna stop him there because self-conscious. Alonso is feeling a wave of anxiety coming on. I think for some people, they probably get these feelings from a very young age, but that's not necessarily the case with everybody. And I think particularly if you're getting it at a little bit of an older age, there's all this societal pressure that comes on with it. So I'm gonna let him head in here to go and change back into his regular clothes right now. Although I don't think that's made him any happier either. He still looks like pretty down to me. But I do think he's definitely thankful to both ladies for like not questioning him, not judging him, just for kind of giving him like a no question, no judgment, no like, you don't have to tell us anything more, just if you want this, we'll do it. We'll give you a little makeover if that's what's gonna make you feel better, and if it doesn't, that's fine as well. Don't feel like you have to be like hemmed or boxed into any one shape. Kind of just take today to figure yourself out and figure out what makes you happy. So whilst I know that things definitely don't get cured in one little outfit, makeup, kind of dress try on experience, I do think that it was kind of, after reading about it and having his own bad experience, a positive experience, with people being positive and supportive is exactly what little Alonso needed. And I guess he's come home almost like forgetting about, you know, the kind of awkward sort of situation that happened before he left with his dad, but then heading home to find his dad on his PC. Because obviously before he left, he His dad did walk in on him trying things out himself. However, his dad, Joseph's a good person, and he wasn't on his PC to like spy on him or anything. He was actually trying to be a good parent and trying to learn. He's like, Alonso, I don't want to pressure you into anything, but if you ever need to talk to me, I'm here for you. I'll support you no matter what is going on or what you want to be or who you want to be. You will always be my child. I'll always be so proud of you, and your mother was as well. So I'm always here if you want to talk, okay? Don't feel like you have to hide anything from me, but just talk to me in your own time too, okay? Now, how about we go watch that football game? What do you say, Alonzo? And he's like, you know what, Dad? Okay. Fine, I'll come watch it with you. And he's like, oh, do you remember when you used to do all this dance and stuff, Alonzo? You were so good. Violet loved watching you dance. I don't know why you ever stopped. You know what, Dad? Maybe you're right. Maybe it is something I want to give a go again. Thank you for reminding me. And the two of them actually having a really nice, engaging chit-chat with the TV turned off. I don't think Alonso probably quite ready to tell him everything yet. That's kind of the thing with Alonso. He's taking things slowly. He's waiting to accept himself before he asks for acceptance from other people. But just a few positive changes, a few kind of asking for help and kind of being open to the people around him is definitely putting him in a better place. And in fact, after his dad does head to bed, I'm gonna go make Alonso do a little travel on his own. Do something he's not dared do since he was a teenage boy with bullies in high school, but something that he's really good at. Changes in Alonso's mindset and the things he's experimented and tried with over the past few days, these things don't just magically click into place, and that is one of the things that I've kind of been debating so much on for Alonso's story, to try and explain a journey that somebody has to go through if they want to transition cannot be something that can be adequately described in a few days, because it's a long process, and also for the people that go through it, it is often a very difficult, very painful, very emotional process as well. And I debated kind of going through for a little bit of a darker angle with this story, but ultimately I kind of wanted to make this a video of like hope and positivity rather than of negativity and pain. We saw that Alonso had a painful past, but I really wanted to end this on a positive note, and also realistically on a realistic note as well. Didn't want him to just suddenly be like, okay, I know that I want to transition into a girl, I want to switch to she and her pronouns. I kind of wanted to have his ending be a little bit more ambiguous in that he's kind of started this journey. There's a few different ways it can go. There's no one way to do this correctly. If he decides he doesn't want to transition, but he just wants to be a non-binary sim, a non-binary individual where he doesn't feel like he has to be a him or a her, he could be a they, he could be something else altogether. But ultimately, he's doing what is best for him and what makes him happy. He also has a very ideal situation where the people around him are positive, happy people. And obviously, I know that's not always the case, but if it could be the case, then you'd want it to be the case, which is why I wanted to do that for Alonso. Kind of waking up a little bit more positive, and I do think eventually that is where his story will end. But for now, I think his first step is probably just telling his friends and family that he's not really sure what his future holds, but he kind of would prefer not to use he and him pronouns. And we're probably going to see them experiment a little bit more with their luck, kind of have a little bit more fun and decide who they truly are in the world and where they fit. And if you were wondering why it was important to me that I did tell a positive story and also a realistic story of these things not just clicking and magically all falling into place, it is because there are some really important issues behind this that I just don't feel like I can do justice in a Sims episode, such as the fact that 4 in 5 trans people have experienced some form of abuse, whether it be name calling, whether it be physical abuse, and 84% of trans people in the UK have thought about suicide, and over half have attempted suicide. So it was important to me that I didn't kind of trivialize this issue, and it's also the reason that I was stressing quite a lot about this episode. I'm worried that I wouldn't be able to do it justice, which is why I didn't go for a full transition in the space of one episode, but instead started a journey of somebody who had love and support around him as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a big cheeky thumbs up. We still have 2 My Story episodes left. We have Alice next, and then finally we have Zoe Rose, who obviously featured a lot in today's episode, and I'll see you guys in another video.
Oh.